And so now I'm at the beginning of row 4. It says not to chain at the beginning of this row, and that we want to skip the next stitch, and we're going to 5 double crochet in the next stitch, and then we're going to skip a stitch and do a slip stitch, and we're supposed to do that all the way around. So when it's talking about skipping stitches, if I'm looking at my work here and you're looking at the V's, and you can even look at the post stitches too. So if I'm looking at the post stitches, like here's a post, there's a post. So if I'm looking at that right there, that's like a stitch, and I'm supposed to skip there. So I'm not supposed to go in under that first V right there. I'm supposed to skip that one and actually come over here and go under that one right there. So that's where I'm going to put my my double crochets. And I know it seems a little awkward because you've not done your chain stitches, but if you have to hold your finger to come under here and yarn over so that you can get that first one in, and once you get the first one in, it's really not difficult. And like I said, that's 1, and then we're doing these 5 on that very same stitch. I think that's 4. Let's count here. I'm not sure, so I have to look. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got to do 1 more. So now I've done the 5 double crochet in that stitch right there. And now the instructions say to skip the next stitch and slip stitch in the next stitch. So I'm not going to slip stitch in, because all the 5 are going in there. So I'm going to skip this one here, and I'm actually going to slip stitch over here on the next one. And the slip stitch, you put your hook in, yarn over, and pull through, and then I'm going to also pull through that same loop on my hook. And so basically what I've done is I've made the 5 double crochets, and then we've sort of like anchored it like down into the work, and that's is what's going to give it the scallops. And so now we're going to do this all the way around. I'm going to yarn over. Again, it says to skip, so I'm not going to do my 5 double crochets in that very next V, which is right here. I'm going to skip and go over to that one because it says to skip. And if you have to, pull it apart so that you can see, where you're at and where you're supposed to skip. So I'm going to yarn over, skip that next stitch, and if I look, sometimes you have to really sort of look, and I can see where my yarn's coming out of for that slip stitch. So it's really not that one there, but it's this one here that I got to skip and go over. So just make sure you really look at your work to see where you're supposed to put those next 5 double crochets. And that's 2, 3, 4, 5. So then after the 5 double crochets, we're supposed to skip the next stitch, not this one, skip that one and come into this one and do a slip stitch, because that slip stitch is what anchors it down, like I said, and makes it look like a scallop. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 more, skip the next stitch, so not where my yarn is coming through, where I just did my slip stitch, and I'm not going to go in that very next one because I'm skipping it, but I'm going into the next one, and that's where I'll do my 5 double crochets. That's 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And then skip the next stitch and go into the next one, and then pull up and do a slip stitch to anchor it. So now I've done 3 of the scallops by doing 5 double, starting at the beginning, skipping 1, doing 5 double crochets in the next stitch, skipping a stitch and doing a slip stitch, 5 double crochets in the next one, then skipping a stitch and slip stitch, then skipping a stitch and doing 5 in the next one, skipping a stitch and doing a slip stitch. And continue to do that all the way around. End up with is your coaster with all the scallops made, and the last thing that we have to do is to put our single crochet border on.